Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing another movie review. This movie is a horror comedy from the United States, English language, released in the year 2019, directed by Jim Jarmusch, and this film is called The Dead Don't Die. So The Dead Don't Die is based in a very sleepy town. You've got a sheriff and his deputy who are experiencing a day unlike any other day they've ever experienced. The sun is not going down, and there's a lot of talk about polar fracking and that the Earth is never going to be the same again. So there's a little bit of unease within the community. But that unease is going to turn into terror when they realise that whatever's going on with the world has caused the dead to come out of their graves and attack the living. So the sheriff and his deputy have to band together with a few others in order to try and save this town and repel the attack of the dead, and at the same time try and find out the reason, and so they can try and put an end to it. So whether or not they can is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on The Dead Don't Die. A lot of people hate this film, and for that reason I was umming and ahhing about whether or not I'm going to even bother watching this movie. Now Jim Jarmusch, believe it or not, is a director I haven't been experienced with yet. I love strange filmmakers, but majority of my strange films come from Europe. And so coming into a Jim Jarmusch film, I wasn't really quite sure. I know he's a very quirky sort of person, a very quirky persona and a quirky look. But as far as films are concerned, I haven't experienced it. And so when I heard everyone talking about how much they hated this movie, I went in there expecting not to like it. Now I know better than to judge my opinion coming into a film based on what others thought, but it is very hard to shake that feeling. Is that yes, I give it every opportunity to impress me, but the hype, it does have some sort of clouding judgment within a viewer, and for me especially. And so I knew that a lot of people hated this movie. They said it was very boring, it wasn't funny. So for that I had my skepticisms. But I want to get into the works of Jim Jarmusch. Now I've got a movie called Dead Man, which is a Johnny Depp film from the 1990s that I haven't seen yet. I got that on Blu-ray, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. I've also got another film of his called with Tilda Swinton called Lovers Left Alive, and so I have to watch that movie as well. So I've got a few of his films, but I just never got around to watching any of them. So The Dead Don't Die is my first experience of Jim Jarmusch, and not knowing whether or not I was going to love it or hate it, I was kind of leaning on expecting to hate it, which is the reason why I was so shocked that I liked this movie as much as I did. And I can completely understand why a lot of people hated this movie. Now, it's going to bill itself as a horror comedy, so you go in there expecting a zombie horror comedy like Shaun of the Dead or other films that have come before it that are going to make you laugh out loud, and it's going to have tons of gore and it's going to be scary. But I can totally see how this movie has misled a lot of people, is that it isn't all that scary. And I think the zombies in this movie are used in a much in a different way that is so different from the majority of zombie films. And so zombie film fans are going to not get anything from the zombie aspect. And as far as the comedic aspect, the comedy is a very strange style. It's a very difficult style to execute, and when it's executed, it's not going to appeal to a general audience. And so that is the reason why I think a lot of people didn't find it very funny. Now, I'm not saying that if you didn't find it funny, you didn't understand it. I'm just saying different styles of humour gravitate to different people. Some people might like crude humour, some people might like slapstick, and some people might like deadpan. Now, deadpan is the style of humour in this movie, but if you don't like deadpan, you're not really going to find this film funny. So if you don't find it funny, you don't find it particularly scary, you're not really going to get anything from it. And that's ultimately, I think, the film's biggest drawback, was the fact that it was a little bit misleading. And I think that Jim Jarmusch takes a massive risk in actually making a horror comedy the way he does, because it's not a traditional sort of film in that sense. And I think that is a risk taker, and it shows that Jim Jarmusch is a risk taker. And I think risk takers need to be more common within the cinematic world, is because you make films that are going to split the viewer in half. Is that half are going to love it, half are going to hate it. And when you've got directors out there who aren't willing to take a risk, they water it down for a broad audience, they become very forgettable. And so I think that Jim Jarmusch, based on this experience, is a very, very exciting director. And he's a director that is very reminiscent of Roy Andersson from Sweden, or you've got Jean-Pierre Jeunet, or other filmmakers who dare to be different, who dare to create their own style and not worried about people disliking their works. So it's a very big risk, and I think the risk, as far as I'm concerned, pays off because of the deadpan humour. Now, deadpan humour is very monotonous, it's very boring on the outside, but on the inside, it's certain reactions to certain events that actually made me laugh out loud. Now, whether it's something absolutely shocking happening, but the character acting as though they don't really care, that to me was really funny, and it's just the way it's done. It's the script combined with the acting that I thought was absolutely fantastic, and it gives it an otherworldly feel. And that otherworldly feel to me was the horror aspect. It wasn't necessarily seeing the zombies and eating people. Now, yes, that is traditional horror, but the horror to me was the quirkiness of the characters, the monotony of the characters, the boredom of the characters. Basically, the deadpan humor creates an unnerving quality, and matching that unnerving quality with the atmosphere and the cinematography I thought was absolutely perfect. This is a very European style of humour, and it's a very European style of film, and I know a lot of American audiences aren't used to this kind of thing, and that's the reason why I think a lot of people hated it. Now again, I'm not saying you didn't understand it. I'm not saying I'm better than you because I found it funny. I'm just saying different people get different reactions to films, and I just appreciated this movie for what it was because it reminded me of films that I absolutely loved. Deadpan humour is very Scandinavian, and so I think that Jim Jarmusch really understands that, and he executes it in a way that takes me back to films that I love, takes me back to films that I consider masterpieces. I wouldn't consider this a masterpiece, but it's definitely on the road to being that sort of film. And so you've got acting from Bill Murray, Adam Driver, Tilda Swinton, Danny Glover, Chloe Sevigny, Iggy Pop. You've got a lot of well-known people in this movie that have a lot of fun doing what they do, and they showcase their talents, especially Adam Driver and Bill Murray, in the way that they portray that deadpan quality. You know, very lacking of emotion. You know, they're not very happy. They have a very dry sort of look on their face from start to finish, and so there's no laughing, there's no it's all very, very serious, and that's something that I really liked. And when it's done properly, deadpan humor is unlike anything that you've seen before, and it's just a showcase of a master storyteller as far as humor is concerned. So Jim Jarmusch, he creates something that is very, very strange, and you're either going to love it or hate it, and that to me, as I said, is the best kind of film. And what I liked about the movie also was the way that Jim Jarmusch used the zombies in this film. The zombies are a symbolisation of consumerism, a symbolisation of society and how we are zombies to our routine, whether it's going to the diner, whether it's playing sport, or whether it's looking at your telephones. That is the idea that the film has. And so using the zombies as a symbolisation of the societal zombies, I think, again, that is the reason why a lot of people may hate this film, is because it's not used in a George A. Romero way. And so that's something that, again, I really appreciated, because once again, it was very, very different. I also like the fact that it is very self-aware. It's kind of mocking itself. It's a parody of itself, and it's also a parody of films that have come before it, especially George A. Romero or other films. And it's also, as I said, making fun of itself. And it's kind of like a movie within a movie, is that they're commenting about, even Jim Jarmusch, they say, okay, well, did Jim write this in the script? And so it's kind of like they're looking at the film from within, and so that was very different, and I think that was very quirky. And so the whole film just has a way about it that you haven't really seen before, and I think it's definitely going to take a lot of people by surprise. And again, a lot of people are going to like it, a lot of people are going to hate it, and for me, I really liked it. I really appreciated what Jim Jarmusch did with this. It was funny. Well, I believe it was very funny, but again, it's very deadpan and very European style of humour. And so if you like that kind of thing, definitely go out there and see it, but be very careful. If you're expecting a Shaun of the Dead type of film, it's not going to be for you. There is a little bit of gore in it. There is, zombies being decapitated, but I believe that, it's all very strange. It's very out of this world. It's got a very unnerving sort of quality about it as far as atmosphere is concerned, but there's also a little bit of a deeper meaning to it, and that provides something that I believe was incredibly memorable. So I really appreciated this, but again, not everyone will love it. And so for that, I'm going to give this film 4 stars. Go out there and see it, and see for yourself whether or not Jim Jarmusch is for you. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.